Call this RTC meeting to order. It is 9:01. We will start with a roll call. Madam Clerk.
Good morning. Tracy Larkin Thomason.
Here.
Ed Lawson.
Here.
Devin Reese.
Here.
Alexis Hill.
Here.
Bill Thomas.
Here.
Mari Luz Garcia.
Here.
Hillary Sheevy.
I sure am. Is Art Sperber here? Okay.
And Adam Spear.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. We'll now move into the Pledge of Allegiance. And speaking of Art, we are going to have him lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. We'll now move into public comment. Madam Clerk.
We have two public comments that were given to you.
Okay. We'll now move to Brendan Schneider.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the board. My name is Brendan Schneider. I'm a Senior Air Quality Specialist for the Northern Nevada Public Health Air Quality Management Division. I'm commenting on Agenda Item 5.1, the Regional Transportation Plan set for adoption at this meeting. As many of you may know, emissions from motor vehicles are the largest source of air pollution in Washoe County. These emissions lead to the formation of ground level ozone, which is one of the 6 criteria pollutants listed in the Clean Air Act. Ground level ozone is the pollutant of concern for the summertime and can lead to poor health outcomes for the public, especially older adults, children, and those with existing lung disease. Although Washoe County is recognized by EPA as attaining the 2015 Ozone National Ambient Air Quality Standard, we are only within 2 parts per billion of violating it. These standards do get strengthened over time, with the next review of ozone slated for 2030. These 5 years between now and then are critical for Washoe County to avoid detrimental health, environmental, and economic impacts of violating this standard. These impacts include restrictive motor vehicle emission budgets, reduction or loss of federal funding, and more stringent local air quality regulations on businesses and residents. The Regional Transportation Plan should be implemented to help mitigate Washoe County's ground level ozone problem through projects that prioritize alternative and public transportation and ultimately reduce vehicle miles traveled. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank RTC's planning team for their hard work on getting this plan to the finish line. I know it wasn't easy. And AQMD looks forward to working with them in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your collaboration. And next up, we have Jennifer Iveson.
Good morning. I'm Jennifer Iveson with Safe Routes to School, and I wanted to come here today to thank you for being such an amazing community partner and for supporting our program and pedestrian safety in our community. I'd like to point out the bus that's parked outside. The artwork on these buses just brightens our community and shares safety messages every day, and we know that education is instrumental in reducing pedestrian crashes and helping our students every day. So we thank you again for helping us with this project.
Thank you. Any other public comment, Madam Clerk?
No other public comment.
Okay, we'll now move into the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes requested by the board? If not, I'm looking for a motion.
Madam Chair, I just have one item to pull
Yes.
in 4.3. It's 4.3.6. 4.3.6.
Thank you very much. Any other changes or requests from the board? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. We have a motion and a second. Any questions on that from the board with pulling 4.3.6? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. All right, that motion passes unanimously. We'll now move to 4.3.6, and Mr. Reese.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Mr. Keller, so much appreciate you being here. I pulled this item because this is something that has been of particular interest to the City of Reno and to Madam Mayor and myself. These are roadway improvements along McCarran Boulevard. And so I wanted to first commend the RTC for the work it's done on the safety programming for that stretch of roadway, and also just sort of tee up a discussion for my colleagues here. In particular, I'm interested in knowing more about the plans for improvements along the Lakeside and McCarran area, an area where we're having just a number of transportation difficulties. And also we have some planning projects that have been coming through the planning and development stage, which impact that area. And so it has been a concern for our residents. And of course, Madam Mayor and I have prioritized it here at the RTC for its improvement. So if you might just speak to that briefly and give my colleagues who might not be as familiar with the area a little bit of background.
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner Reese, for bringing this agenda item to everybody's attention. Dale Keller, Deputy Executive Director, for the record. So just a little background. Back in 2023, RTC Planning led with our partnership with both NDOT, the City of Reno, and City of Sparks, an effort to look at the whole loop itself. And out of that, we looked at improvements for multimodal improvements, how to improve safety and speeds, and also how to improve some traffic operations. Since that time, the RTC's looked into and moved forward with an interlocal cooperative agreement back in fiscal year 24. And that was looking at two areas of improvements. The first one was the south leg of, I'll call it the ring, from actually all the way from Plum all the way down South Virginia Street, to look into what type of safety and operational improvements can we make in that area. Also in the City of Sparks area, we looked at the north leg from El Rancho all the way to Pyramid Highway. So we knew that was highly congested, a lot of safety issues going along, and those are two hot areas on the loop. So since this time, we have a consultant on board looking at those preliminary designs and looking at what can we do with partnership with NDOT to advance the design, and what can we prioritize with the department to actually find some construction funds and make those improvements happen. So that's where we are today, and I think this agenda item just kind of highlights overall where we are and just provide an update to the board about how we're progressing and looking at safety as well as operations on the McCarran Loop.
And specifically in that area, Plum, Lakeside, McCarran, that area, when are you anticipating those changes coming to be, right? Because what happens for the public is they have a sense that there's an issue because they drive that route each day, or they have some anecdotal evidence about crashes happening in an area. So their sense is heightened. And then we at this board make very long-range planning decisions oftentimes. So there becomes a disconnect because they see something happening, we want to see something happen, and then, government takes its toll. And so when do you anticipate those projects breaking ground?
So what we're committed to right now through RTC, the advances design. As you're all aware, this is a state route and NDOT-led roadway. So any of the improvements that we propose, we have to make sure that NDOT also supports and approves those. Now, for us, we want to also partner with NDOT to understand where this construction funding is going to come. I think in our RTIP, the 5-year plan, we identified there's possible $10 million of local funds. That's not saying we have identified where those 10 million funds could go, but that's just something the conversation we like to continue with NDOT to say, okay, we're looking to invest in the community. Where else can we bring some additional funds to do these improvements around the whole loop?
Well, and for our part at the City of Reno, NDOT has been an outstanding partner to us. And we just need so very much, especially the McCarran Loop. It's just one of the more critical pieces of infrastructure. So any improvements along that route, I think, are very appreciated. I also think, although it wasn't mentioned in the presentation, there was another, I'll call it exciting development, which is the improvement of Keystone and McCarran, which is a signalization effort that has been so very well received by that neighborhood. It's been long needed there. It's been created a lot of problems because of the way that traffic flows out of the top of that loop, especially during things like the balloon races, when school's back in session. That route has become very challenging. Can you speak to that?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Reese, this has been one of these projects that I think has been ongoing since I've been here at the RTC, and we reached an agreement, a funding agreement with the Department of NDOT and understanding how do we get this signal constructed. So with the work of City of Reno, who's going to ultimately maintain and operate the signal, then with us to help funding the construction of it and not come to the table with the design and looking at the safety improvements of that north leg of McCarran. So it's been a win-win. I know this week there's a press release that came out saying, hey, we're beginning construction and we anticipate this signal being up and operational here this summer.
That is incredible. Thank you so very much. And again, thank you to our partners at NDOT. It's often challenging when you describe to a citizen the layers to which we have to evaluate various things. And it starts with who owns the road, then who maintains the road. Even though the road may be somewhere, I often tell people that you got to first tell me where you're talking about. Then we got to figure out if it's county, city, NDOT, RTC involved. And people don't really care. They just want their road to have no potholes and a signal where they want it, right? So really important project. I hope that you all will do your best to share the good news with the community, because sometimes that takes that sort of forward-facing push publicity-wise. But I'm so thankful for this item particularly, but the work that's been done on McCarran is very important. I don't know if Madam Mayor had anything she wanted to add on this one too.
I do. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dale. I really appreciate this. Couple things. It's been a little bit murky, and maybe this is a question for Tracy, on the policing and the public safety aspect of whose responsibility that has been. Can you kind of provide some ideas there?
Commissioner Shivi, go Tracy.
That might be a good question for you, Tracy.
As far as the enforcement, I do know that was brought to my attention in the last few weeks, so we're looking in to make sure that basically NHP would normally be the one who polices on our roadways, but in many areas across the state, we also have, whether it's a local sheriff's department or the Reno Police Department. So we just want to make sure, just to clarify, that they know that they have permission for that.
Yeah.
So I know it's in process. And as long as I'm speaking, I know that the McCarran thing, we have a meeting, a presentation at your council next week. They're putting together specifically for the McCarran part. And then you'll see a picture of the signal later on in my presentation.
Okay, that's fantastic. And I appreciate your, you've been very, very collaborative, Tracy. I really appreciate it. We have a lot of residents along there that are very concerned. Particularly in the summertime, it gets really bad with motorcyclists, and we're seeing, it seems like it's constantly, we're seeing deaths on McCarran because it's such a, sort of feels like a freeway in many instances, but we want to be a good partner. And if I send Reno Police Department up there quite a bit, but we also want to be a good partner and make sure that we're sort of having those layers of safety and policing up there. And so just, oftentimes we'll be like, well, they're supposed to do it. No, they're supposed to do it. So I really want to try to collaborate to make sure that we have a comprehensive safety plan up there, because in the summertime it gets really, really bad. Dale, talk to us a little bit about, when you talk about traffic mitigation, what are some of the things we can expect?
Commissioner Shivi, there's many different opportunities for us from how we can engineer the roadway. And there's a great thing you're going to hear about next week about the safe systems approach. There are different opportunities as we look and holistically with a road, not just old road diet, slow it down. There's different opportunities that we can help with how you improve safety for pedestrian crossings, as an example. How do you make it feel less comfortable by going higher speeds? There's many different opportunities as the FHWA, the Federal Highway Administration, has outlined some of these approaches that we can take. So as we start taking the planning effort that we have, and now how can we actually implement these safe system approaches on our roadways? So that's what our team is working on right now. As you hear on the presentation or the public hearing on 5.1 about the RTP, there's actually 14 projects identified in the RTP regarding the McCarran Boulevard. So there's definitely a recognition and prioritization of these projects and the safety and operations that it plays for our community, and we're looking to address that as best we can.
Okay. Do you look at a broad view? And what I mean by this, there is an area up there that actually the HOA planted trees along McCarran right before you go into a development. Is that something you also look at? Because we've had sort of a lot of issues where those trees are, where possibly, someone hits that tree going at really high speeds, it's going to be problematic. Is that something you also kind of
Sure,
take a
Shivi.
broad view of?
Yes, yes, it is, and there's what we call a clear zone. So there has to be a distance back away from the roadway that allows, in case of a car does depart from the roadway, it allows there's no obstacles there, such as trees. I know we work together with that and with the department as they do their review of their encroachment on the right-of-way for NDOT's right-of-way. Yes, that's one thing they do
Okay.
consider.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I think when they did that 20 years ago, the trees were like this big. Now they're this big. So, all right. Thank you so much, Dale. I really, really appreciate it. I appreciate it, Tracy. We look forward to seeing you guys at council. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Any other thoughts or items on 436 from the board? Not seeing any. I'm looking for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve item 4.3.6 as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Reese. Thank you, Ms. Sheeby. Any questions on the motion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. And that motion passes unanimously. We'll now move into item 5, our public hearings. We're going to go into 5.1. This is a public hearing regarding approval of the 2050 Regional Transportation Plan and to adopt a resolution approving the RTP. We'll start with a staff presentation.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Vanessa Lacer, RTC, RTP on the brain.
Yes.
RTC Planning Director. So I'm here to provide a presentation about our final draft today. Last month, we provided you with a presentation of the draft plan, and since then, we have concluded the second round of our public engagement process, where we collected comments. Those are included in your agenda packet. As well as our responses and whether or not we made any changes to the final plan based on those comments. The final plan, of course, is included as well. So today I'll just provide a brief overview of our planning timeline, touch on a few development milestones, and focus on next steps for plan approval. So as you're well aware, we began this process in the fall of 23. We provided updates to this board along the way, and today we are at that final bubble, that spring 2025 bubble seeking adoption. Here are just some milestones since 23. We've done a lot of work on this plan, as you're aware, 6 agency working group meetings, 2 rounds of public engagement, travel demand modeling. Most recently here in 25, we completed our air quality analysis and conformity determination in partnership with EPA. We brought this draft plan to both of our committees here at RTC. So that's our Technical Advisory Committee and our Citizens Multimodal Advisory Committee. Both committees reviewed and provided comments, which you will see in the comment matrix in the agenda packet. And then we also brought the plan to our Technical Advisory Committee for recommendation, and they unanimously recommended approval of the 2050 RTP. And our final to-do list item here is plan approval, which we're seeking today. So I wanted to review some of the public engagement we did in round 1 since it's been a while. Great deal of public engagement, many thanks to staff here at RTC that participated in that, but CAB meetings, 9 of them. We had television spots, newspaper ads, social media posts, e-blasts. We also had a web survey and an interactive map where community members could put a pin on the map to identify specific locations that might be challenging to them. We also did some public comment analysis as part of that. And so here's by the numbers, kind of what we received in our first round of public engagement. We had 473 survey responses. We analyzed over 1,700 comments. We, of course, engaged all 3 of our regional partners. And then we also had this agency working group, which worked through the duration of the planning process. But that included 21 of our regional agencies. So those are our planning partners, our stakeholders in the region, anyone who the implementation of this plan would touch. And so what did we do with all of that information, all of that great data, all that time and energy that folks gave us, giving us their thoughts and opinions? What we did is turn all of that fantastic information into the foundation of our plan. So as the MPO, we're also required to consider national goals and planning factors, which we did, but the majority of the input came from the public and our stakeholders to create our plan goals, and those are the foundation of our plan. They are the desired state for our community that we wish to see over the next 25 years. And so everything we've done is in furtherance of those goals. So once we understood our goals, we could really begin our planning process. We developed objectives for each of those 9 goals, and those objectives determine how success is defined for each of those goals. What does success in a goal of safety look like, for example? And once we understood what success looked like, we were then able to create a scoring tool which would measure the ability of projects to achieve those goals. The intention being that the projects selected and included in the final plan as Appendix B are those that can best achieve the goals we set out for our community. So once we had those projects moved through the scoring tool, we had prioritized project lists. We could then get started on our work to create a fiscally constrained project list. This is a required element of the plan, and fiscally constrained means that it's not a wish list of projects. It is projects that can actually be built with funding that we expect to enter into our region within the next 25 years. So in order to create that list, again, that's Appendix B, we needed to look into the projected revenues for the next 25 years. What funding can we reasonably expect to enter our region? What grants, local, federal, state funding is available? And then because we're not just the MPO, we're also the transit provider, and we have a street and highway program, we needed to consider in that budget the cost for those programming items as well. So the plan is complete. We are here today to hold a public hearing and to seek approval for this plan. Once we have the plan approved, we then will submit it to our partners at Federal Highway Administration and Federal Transit, as well as NDOT. And then we can get started implementing these projects. We can get them on the way to being built and to providing benefit for our community. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Lacer. I do want to give you major kudos because I know you stepped into this plan after we had hired you and did a lot of work in the background. So thank you to help us meet this deadline. And thank you to the team who helped with public outreach. And I saw so many of you at events, and I think RTC should be very proud about the work that we are doing in the community to be in touch with the community. So thank you for your work there. Looking to the board to see if there's any questions about particular projects or recommendations in the plan. I'm not seeing that there is any. This is a public hearing, and so I will open up the public hearing. Madam Clerk, is there any public comment?
No public comment at this time.
Thank you. I also want to say I appreciate all your responses to the public who had particular questions about the plan or how we were responding to issues that they see in the community. And so I really appreciate that. And I think you did a very thorough job with that. I don't know how you did it all. So congratulations to you and the whole team, the whole RTC team for working together on that. We will close the public hearing, and now I'm looking to the board to see if there's any further discussion or if folks would like to make a motion on this.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'll just echo some of your comments and thanks to you and the staff, but I also want to say thank you from the City of Reno staff. Really, the process by which this important document is made is obviously very lengthy, and thousands of human-powered hours go into it. And I can tell you that from our staff side at the City of Reno, they felt very collaborative, very heard, meaning every time they came with the next round of comments, they were worked through. And in fact, I think it would be said by our staff that the staffs at the City of Sparks and Washoe County also were all working together. And I think that that's one of the things that I observe about this body is the high degree of collaboration among the interagencies that work and with our state partner. And so again, thank you from me. All of the plans that go into this, of course, mean something being very important to specific sites and locations. But more broadly, I think they speak to the high degree of interlocal cooperation when it comes to things that just should have cooperation on: roads, transportation, infrastructure. I also want to thank you for making very much at the forefront of all of these decisions, the changes in people's transportation habits. So sometimes that's about busing, sometimes that was about trails planning, sometimes it's been about multimodal transportation systems. And so I think as a region, we are heading into sort of a golden era of transportation infrastructure opportunities. And your team has been at the forefront of that. So thank you very much for that. I am honored to be a part of this particular plan and excited for it.
Yes, I sit on other transportation boards, one in Tahoe, and typically when we adopt the RTP, there is a line of people very upset. So the fact that we do not have that today, I'm very appreciative, and I think that that shows about your responsiveness and really seeing the future of this community. And I don't know about this board, but when I am out and about, either walking or driving or riding my bike, I see so many more pedestrians on our streets. And I can't believe how much our community is being transformed, and people want to be outside, and they want to be safe outside. And I think that this plan really looks to that future. Any other board member comments? Okay, with that, now that we've taken public comment, I'm looking for a motion from the board. Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have a motion. I'm looking for a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Reese. We have a motion and a second. Any questions from the board on that? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. That motion passes unanimously. We'll now move into 5.2. This is also a public hearing regarding approval of Amendment 5 to the 2327 RTIP, and to adopt a resolution for number 5 to the RTIP. And we have a staff presentation. Welcome.
Good morning, members of the board. Graham Dollarhide, Planning Manager with RTC for the record. This morning I'll be presenting on the proposed amendment number 5 to the federal fiscal year 2023 to 2027 Regional Transportation Improvement Program, or RTIP. So before I get into the details of each project included in the amendment, I'd just like to provide a quick overview of the purpose of the RTIP and the process involved in carrying it out. So the document is a federally required program of projects, and inclusion in the RTIP is one of the steps necessary in making a project eligible for federal funding. The document represents a prioritized program of scheduled and fiscally constrained transportation improvement projects designed to achieve the region's goals and objectives established in the long-range plan, the Regional Transportation Plan, or RTP, by advancing those prioritized projects through into this program. The proposed amendment aligns with the goals and objectives of both the outgoing and newly adopted RTP. The RTIP is not a reconciliation document that is amended retroactively to reflect actual expenditures. However, as projects evolve, significant changes in cost, scope, timing, etc. must be reflected in the RTIP. And it includes all federally funded or regionally significant transportation projects, regardless of funding source, and carried out by any agency within the Metropolitan Planning Organization, or MPO, boundary. So this is why oftentimes you will see NDOT or other agencies listed as the project lead, or why projects are added, deleted, or modified at the request of another agency. So this graphic summarizes the process of moving projects from that long-range vision all the way through implementation. With the proposed amendment, we are in the programming phase, which, as described on the previous slide, advances priorities from that long-term RTP to this short-term RTIP. Once properly programmed in the RTIP, projects can advance to the agreement and implementation phases. The current version of the RTIP is the federal fiscal year 2023 to 2027 RTIP, as previously mentioned, and was adopted in August of 2023. Since that time, 4 amendments have been processed, and this represents the 5th amendment to this document. RTC typically adopts a new RTIP every 2 years and is currently on schedule to adopt a new iteration of the RTIP later this year. The new version will be the federal fiscal year 2025 to 2029 RTIP, which will newly program projects for federal fiscal years 2028 and 2029. An amendment is required in this case to consolidate existing projects, add new projects, and update others. So the G751 bridge replacement project is being removed from the RTIP on account of it being consolidated into the I-80 East pre-construction project. The Sun Valley Boulevard Corridor Improvements Project is being amended to update the scope and increase the total cost necessary to accommodate those scope changes. The programmed scope now includes drainage improvements and pavement treatments that were not previously programmed. The I-80 East pre-construction project is being amended to add federal funds to the design phase of the project and to incorporate the aforementioned G751 bridge replacement project. The State Route 445 Pyramid Way 3R and ADA project is being amended to increase the total cost and move construction phase of the project forward from fiscal year 26 to fiscal year 25. And the cost increases are due to general increases since the project was originally scoped. The US 395 North Valleys Preservation Project is being amended to increase the total cost. The cost increase in this case is due to different paving strategy being used, higher bid quantities, and general bid item cost increases since the project was originally scoped. And finally, the multi-layer overlay on various structures throughout Washoe County project is a new project that provides pavement preservation activities on various road segments throughout Reno and Sparks. This would traditionally be classified as a betterment project. Betterment projects are not typically included in the RTIP because they are not considered regionally significant and are not typically federally funded. However, in this case, due to state funding shortages, the project had to be federalized and thus included in the RTIP. I'll close with some final notes on this amendment process. The proposed amendment will require layers of approval from this board, as well as at state and federal levels. The public comment period has been noticed through standard channels, including a Spanish language newspaper, and was opened January 29th. The comment period closed February 18th, and no public comments were received. The proposed amendment was reviewed by the RTC, TAC, and CMAQ without opposition, and today's meeting also includes a public hearing as a part of that approval process. So with that, I'll take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is a public hearing, so I will open it up to public comment. Madam Clerk, is there any public comment on this item?
No public comment.
Okay, thank you very much. Looking for discussion or questions from the board on this? I'm not seeing any. Yes, Mr. Reese.
Never pass up a chance to be grateful for the work that you're doing here, Mr. Dollarhide. I wanted to just say the Sun Valley Improvement Project really strikes me as transformational. So the change in the dollar amount from, we'll just say 30 million to 85 million, I think that is a signal to the impressive work, not only of Commissioner Garcia to advocate for it, but also that we have a shared vision for our region, that no part of the greater Washoe County is left behind in the process of planning for improvements. And so having lived here my entire life and spent lots of time in that area of Sun Valley, I just think it's incredible. I mean, it really is a transformational project that I think is going to have impacts across space and time. So thank you for it, and thank you to the colleagues on the board for advocating for it and then making it happen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? Not seeing any. All right, with that, we've opened the public hearing. We had no public comment. I'm looking, and if there's no other discussion, I'm looking for a motion.
Madam
Commissioner
Chair,
Clayton.
I move
Yes.
to approve the Amendment 5 for the RTIP.
Thank you very much. We have a motion. Looking for a second? Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have a motion and a second. Any questions from the board on that? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. And with that, that passes unanimously. Great work. We'll now move on to our discussion items, and that is item 6. Now we'll move to 6.1 to approve the new fiscal year 26 street and highway projects for RTC Street and Highway Program, approve an interlocal cooperative agreement with City of Reno, Washoe County, specifying responsibilities for delivering certain projects, approve an interlocal cooperative agreement with the City of Sparks and Washoe County, specifying responsibilities for delivering certain projects. This is an action item. Hello.
Good morning, Madam Chair, board members, Dale Keller, Deputy Executive Director and Director of Engineering for the record. So this discussion item, it was a mouthful, but it presents the new fiscal year 2026 street and highway projects for your consideration, as well as approval of 2 interlocal cooperative agreements, or ICAs, specifying those responsibilities to deliver these proposed projects. So this flow chart outlines the transportation planning process, and we're touching 3 of them today. So this is the last one here in the orange step, where projects are authorized. So the interlocal cooperative agreements prioritize funding, including fuel tax revenue for regional projects. So the project or the program is aligned with the Regional Transportation Plan in green, the RTP, as well as the RTIP, as Graham just got through in blue. And then the ICAs authorize the projects, allowing staff to include funding in the annual budget, which will come later this spring. The project authorization step is governed by NRS 373, where this board evaluates and approves projects based on criteria outlined per that statute. Next, the Washoe County Board of County Commissioners authorize the use of fuel tax, and then the county and the governing bodies of Reno and Sparks, as appropriate, authorizes RTC to perform this work on their behalfs. In your agenda packet, there are 2 exhibits depicting the potential new projects inside the City of Reno and City of Sparks. I'm going to highlight each of these projects as well as our annual work program. So starting with our annual work program, the RTC collaborates with the local agency partners to deliver regional-wide improvements. At the top is our pavement preservation program, which maintains regional roads. RTC allocates roughly about $22.5 million per year, and with specific projects selected by the pavement preservation group, including staff members from RTC, Reno, and Sparks in the county. Next is the Traffic and the Intelligent Transportation Systems, or ITS program, which receives about $10 million per year to address those hotspots, those intersections, and help improve safety. Project selection is handled by the Traffic Operations and Management Group, or TOMS, and which composes of our regional traffic engineers. And at the bottom is the new program with the Active Transportation Program, or ATP, which was endorsed by the RTC board and outlined in the Active Transportation Plan. Projects are selected from the neighborhood network plans and by the Active Transportation Technical Advisory Committee, or ATAC, a lot of acronyms here in this one, which includes RTC, City of Reno, Sparks, and Washoe County. So we're excited to genesis this new program. For the RTP projects, moving on to this one, this is the Highland Ranch Parkway widening project. We'll expand the roadway from 2 lanes to 4 lanes between Sun Valley Boulevard and 5 Ridges Boulevard. And we'll be adding continuous pedestrian multimodal facilities while improving intersection operations. Design is set to start in fiscal year 26, and construction is anticipated in 2028. Back in 2020, the RTC completed the University Area Transportation Study to enhance connectivity, safety, and access as development expands on the south portion of their UNR. This University Area Roadway Improvement Project will introduce multimodal upgrades and improve operations, including along 9th Street with a realignment and future connection to Wells. RTC will also collaborate with Reno and UNR staff to enhance circulation around Lake Street and Evans Avenue. A design is anticipated to begin in 2026 and with construction planned for 2028. The Wedekind Road Pedestrian Improvement Project aims to enhance safety and accessibility for new sidewalks between Lund Lane, where that Winco Food is, east to Sullivan Lane. RTC expects to receive federal discretionary directed spending funds for construction. The environmental study is planned for fiscal year 26, and then construction set for 2027. Moving west to the Verdi area, RTC plans to enhance traffic operations on the Boomtown Garson Road by adding a new southbound lane. NDOT actually has a project to replace and reconstruct the I-80 bridge to its ultimate condition. So after which RTC will make some minor intersection improvements and then restripe and add that southbound lane over I-80. Design and utility work will begin here in fiscal year 26. And then once NDOT is completed with that bridge reconstruction, we'll go ahead and get that done roughly in 2028. And then lastly, looking in the southeast part of Reno is the Rio Wrangler Improvement Project, identified from the South Meadows Multimodal Transportation Study, which are aimed to enhance intersection improvements at Rio Wrangler and Steamboat Parkway with a new roundabout design as shown on the screen. RTC will also conduct a scoping study and preliminary engineering for Rio Wrangler and Macaulay Ranch Road. Construction of that Steamboat Parkway is planned for 2026. And before I conclude, I want to note that this presentation doesn't cover all the things that we're working on from RTC Engineering. We have over 60 active projects on the various stages of design, construction, and closeout. Status update for each of these projects are included in your agenda packet. Notably, there are 20 projects that will begin construction here in 2025. As for a few accomplishments from last year, the team successfully completed the Audie Wells project, improved safety at the I-580 exit 29 South Virginia operations. That's by the In-N-Out Burger. And then we helped address congestion on a Steamboat Parkway project at Veterans with the improvement of that intersection. Additionally, our 2024 pavement preservation program did over 12 million square feet of regional roads and to help achieve our pavement condition index of 80. So kind of provide a very clear explanation to kind of show you what we're working on. Our graphics team put together these few slides, and starting with Sparks area to kind of show the transition of what we've been making. Here's the projects that we started in for construction last year in Sparks, and all of them were complete in 2025. For projects we started on scoping and design in the city of Sparks, here's the ones that we moved forward to construction. And for Reno, here are the projects that we are under construction in 2024. And here are all the ones we completed or were done by last year. And for our scoping and design, all these projects that we are moving forward into construction this year is over half. And so we've been busy, a lot of work going on, and we continue to move forward with this program. And we thank you for your support. And that concludes my presentation, and the recommendation is on the screen.
Thank you very much. I'm looking to the board to see if there's any questions or comments, and Vice Chair Reese.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Keller, can we start with the very, very first slide in the presentation after the fiscal year, the header slide? Part of what's challenging for people who don't interact with the RTC, and certainly at sometimes challenging for electeds who are not on this body, is this slide. And so I thought we might take a moment here in the first presentations this morning, because you've taken us through them kindly in order. We really were talking about the RTP and the RTIP. And so in this one, though, and you say we are here, which is nice of you to give us a roadmap, these are, I guess how I would characterize them as I understand it is we're looking at different planning periods. So 20 years reduced to 5 years, reduced to 2 years. So when you say that, that we are here, and then you identify these projects, I think they're coming very soon. And so then I want to turn my attention to one particular project. But am I right about this particular slide and how I'm supposed to interpret it?
Commissioner Reese, I would characterize this step as the handoff between planning to engineering. And so everything that we looked into that 5-year window, those are what we're thinking we're planning. Now it's the implementation side. This is truly the handoff now from planning to engineering.
And so in that handoff, does it make the assumption then that we have the funding in place for the projects that we are handing off, or are we still not to that step?
So these ICAs allow us to move forward from that step to go through this final design to construction. Now, a lot of times as we do so, we bring projects forward that we know we have funding for design. Now, sometimes as we look into some federal opportunities and some other funding sources, we might still have questions about what's the best way to fund it. But as Ms. Lacer said this is what we anticipate having funding for the next 25 years. So now is what is it best fit, working with our CFO and working with our executive director, how we want to fund these projects.
Okay, so it's getting clearer, and I apologize, I have to go sort of methodically through the questions in order to get to the end question, which is the gotcha moment. So you're ready for that. Lawyers do that. They have a bad habit of doing that. Can we talk now about the Boomtown Garrison Road Interchange Project? And this may also be for Ms. Larkin Thomason. This one is of particular importance to my particular ward that I represent in the city of Reno, Reno City Council. And so this says construction 2028. Is that a certainty? Is that we've signed the things on the dotted line? Because what happens is if I go out and tell my constituents it's coming soon, and we get to 2028 and the dirt is unturned, then somehow we have misled them. And so I want to understand how to share this specific project I'm using as the example with our constituents about how the work we do takes time, but eventually it comes to fruition. So what would you say about this project?
What I would say about the Boomtown Garrison Road Interchange Project is we say planned for 2028. Now there's things that need to line up to get through these different steps. And as you mentioned, the leading one for this project is those replacements of the bridges along the Verdi area and I-80. Now we'll be ready, and we anticipate being right on the heels to make these minor improvements to help improve the operations. So I think you mentioned before on the signal is that McCarran and Keystone is that the community doesn't care whose road it is. How do we work together to figure out solutions? And I think this is where, again, partners with NDOT, and thank you for their partnership to say, how do we get this to work for us as a community?
And I also want to add is, like I said, this is what we plan. It does, as I mentioned, a lot of things have to line up. And I'm not sugarcoating to anyone at the legislature right now as we're looking at our program and the impacts of some of the recent federal actions. So right now, what we are looking very closely at is what projects we already have moving. The formula funds are good. Earmarks just last week are good. We don't have a lot of them around the state, but they're good. Any change orders, anything unsure? Things that we're looking at some of the grants, if they're still going to be honored. And we don't know. So we are basically planning for worst case scenario. The projects that are out there. We are going to finish Pyramid. We're going to finish Tropicana in Southern Nevada. We're going to finish the North Valley projects that we have out. But we have to really look at, not only am I uncertain about getting the money, although I'm less concerned that I don't know even if I'm going to get the money, I don't know when we're going to get the money. So there may be some parts of covering with state dollars until we're sure. So that's basically what we're looking at now. We continue to plan. We want to take advantage of every opportunity. There are some funds around. I'll be talking a little bit about some things that can be spread. But we're not talking tens of millions of dollars of here. We're talking a couple $1 million here and there. But that's really just the reality of it. And I think everyone in this room who deals with transportation knows that we're trying to do a 2025 transportation program on a 1993 budget.
Yep.
So, I mean,
Well, I very much appreciate your honesty and candor. That kind of transparency goes a long way with me and also I think with our constituents. I think none of us are, magicians, and we don't expect you to be either. So I like the realistic approach. May I ask very specifically about this term, as it was explained to me? I'd sort of like some clarity. Ultimate condition. So what does this mean in non-planning speak?
well, speak would be for what's planned, and we don't want to come back again and do it. I do remember when the original one was built, specifically for, I go back long enough.
Tells you were 10 years old at the time. Let me ask, though, this particular bridge, it is an interesting location because it's now going to connect into a community where, I don't know, let's say 4,000 or 5,000 homes are going to be built. So what I worry about when this says replace bridge and reconstruct to ultimate condition is that bridge really ought to be modernized in some way. It ought to be designed for pedestrian traffic. It ought to be allowing people to go from one side of the highway to the other side because it's a thoroughfare and connector route down to the school below it in the Verdi Elementary School. So I don't know whether or not I'm preaching to the choir or whether or not there is anything that would be done that we could do at this body to advocate for. Look, I don't want you to replace a bridge that was designed, in the 1950s with another 1950s style bridge. I'm hopeful that what ultimate condition means to you all is to modernize it.
It would definitely not be put back in the same condition as it is. I can honestly promise you that.
I
But,
believe you when you say it, because you
As
always
to the
deliver.
actual design of it, I'm going to defer that probably either Dale or even Sajid.
So Commissioner Reese, I have Amanda Caligari here, one of our engineering managers, who knows the detail, what it means by ultimate condition, and assure you, yes, it is modernized, but Amanda, you want to provide a couple details?
So one of the reasons why RTC is involved in this is so it can be built to its ultimate condition. It will have pedestrian and bicycle access. It's actually going to have a multi-use path on the western side of the bridge. So we're coordinating with them closely, and then RTC is working with Boomtown to make the necessary modifications to their pedestrian tunnel so it can accommodate this multi-use path as well as 2 southbound lanes.
Yeah, it's just challenging because it's very narrow there. You've got this weird bridge structure that goes underneath. It's just that I want to make sure that when we arrive at the moment to reconstruct this area, that we have thought about the fact that we have now allowed 5,000 more homes to be built on the other side of this bridge. I don't know when they'll be built. They're in so many different phases and planning processes over there, but it would not serve our purposes for the next 50 years or 100 years life of that bridge if we don't think very highly about the people who are going to use it. And so it sounds like you are doing that. I appreciate that. That gives me a high degree of certainty. Again, the ultimate condition was what was throwing me when I discussed it with my staff. But it sounds like you are doing what you can to make improvements to it that would be better for the people who live there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vice Chair Reese. Any other comments or questions from the board? I'm not seeing any. All right, this is an action item. I am looking for a motion from the board. Vice Chair Reese.
Move to approve.
Thank you. Looking for a second. Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. We have a motion and a second. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. And that motion passes unanimously. We're now moving into our reports. We'll move into 7.1. This is a message from RTC Executive Director Bill Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Chair and board members. I wanted to start today by, you all mentioned, but I feel like I need to. Vanessa stepped in at a very critical time on that RTP, which is our most complex planning document. And being new to RTC, she didn't know what she was getting
And
into.
the area.
And the area. And was able to successfully pull off working with her team and, as you all have pointed out, the collaborative staffs from the 3 local governments to get this plan completed. So I wanted to publicly acknowledge her, not only for her effort, but also the quality of the effort. So thank you, Vanessa. I also want the board to be aware or reminded that our next board meeting is our annual retreat. So it'll be different, as you all recall, from the way we run these meetings, these monthly meetings, and one where we're really going to hopefully focus on a couple key issues that are policy conversations that we need your thought and participation in. So I'm looking forward to all of you participating on the 14th of March at 9 a.m. It was I'm very pleased, and I will share this with him, that the Flood Control Board was willing to move their meeting because I think we had to move in order to get the facility that we're moving to. So I think they moved their board too, so I appreciate that. It will be at the Convention Center. We will have, again, Eric Olson be our facilitator. Please plan on spending 4 hours, I want to say, maybe 6, depending on how, 6 hours, okay. Hopefully you've got that time blocked out, and we look forward to that. It's a very important time for me personally as your executive director, but also the staff. And I know Tracy hopefully is planning on coming too. So excellent. We at RTC attended the Transportation Day along with NDOT and other MPOs in the state at the Nevada Legislature on February 4th, which actually, interestingly, was the second day of the session. So I think the timing, I was a little nervous about the time, but I think it worked well because the legislators were just kind of getting settled in. So it was a good time for us to go and talk to them. It was a great opportunity for all transportation professionals in the state to let our lawmakers know our priorities during the 2025 session. We at RTC Washoe set up an exhibit table, gave a presentation to the Senate and Assembly Growth and Infrastructure Committees, and met with several legislators to let them know what the issues were in our region related to transportation. I want to thank specifically NDOT, RTC of Southern Nevada, who led this effort to have the session, and Campo from Carson City and TRPA, and all the sponsors who collaboratively funded this. A lot of people participated in funding what I think was a very successful day. Some good news, RTC is a winner of a national award, the AdWheel Award. This award is for the EdPass advertising campaign. Our communications and public transportation teams work with Celtis Ventures to make this a successful campaign to let college students and employees of the colleges know that they can ride the bus for free. Pretty cool that we won that national award. Josh and Celtis will be in Long Beach next week to accept the award from APTA Communications and at the APTA Communications and Marketing Conference. RTC was also recognized as one of the 3 best workplaces for commuters in Nevada from bestworkplaces.org. The City of Henderson and Intuit were the other 2 from our state. This recognition is because we offer free bus passes to our employees. We have a compressed work week. We allow teleworking, guaranteed ride home, and van pool and carpool matching programs. RTC has always encouraged the use of public transit and smart trips as a benefit to not only our employees, but also the region as a whole. We, this past month, partnered with Washoe County Human Services for a Stuff a Bus event. Staff from both agencies collected donations for more than 600 foster and adoptive children in our community. Mayor Lawson also took time out of the day to accept the donations. We collected more than $7,000 worth of gift cards, cash, and clothing donations. RTC employees are always happy to help in our community and enjoy these opportunities to contribute as active members of our community. As was mentioned, I think in your first public comment, it's kind of hard to see because of the screens here, but to your right, you'll see the most recent bus improvement that we've added related to the Safe Routes to School pedestrian safety poster campaign or contest. So we have winners from each of the, from an elementary school, a middle school, and a high school we want to acknowledge this morning. The artist of the poster, somebody can tell me that's on the bus right there, is the 3rd grader? Yes. Excellent, okay. 3rd grader from Huffacre Elementary School, and that's Mahima Soares. I believe what we do too is we will be going to each of the schools to actually, I didn't see the Safe Routes person, did she leave? Okay. To highlight it, yes. Yeah, the kids really love that. I don't know, Josh, if we have the dates yet for that. We will make sure we share them with you, so if you're available, that you can go to the schools. And the middle school winner is Laina, probably slaughtered that name, Schwindenderner, 7th grader from Marcy Hearst, and the high school winner is Jameson Hilton from Galena, and those are the winners this year. Safe Routes to School gives a new bike and an iPad to each of the winners. And we have some school assemblies, as I mentioned, planned for next week. So Josh will make sure that the invite gets to every one of you, as I said earlier. We want to thank every student who participated in this contest to promote safety on our roads. It's obviously a very fun campaign that we do, but one that seems to be very much invigorating to the students of our community. So very proud to be part of that. Once again, RTC will be providing free transit on all of our services for St. Patrick's Day, March 17th. The free service will run from 4 o'clock in the afternoon to 2 o'clock in the morning. This will give all of our residents a safe option to get from place to place, especially if they plan to do any drinking on that holiday. I want to congratulate Judy Velez and Tricia Starkey. There's Tricia. I don't know, is Judy here? I don't think she is. Judy has been with us for 10 years as of February 9th. She does a great job as one of our paratransit eligibility and mobility specialists. So she provides a very critical function in our community for this great service that is provided to those in need. Tricia Starkey has achieved 1 year, or completed 1 year. It went quickly, as of February 13th. Tricia's an administrative associate, and I'm sure if you don't recognize her sitting here at the meeting, she's also usually up front when you come into the building. So thank you, Tricia. And lastly, I want to acknowledge the drivers of the month. So for MTM, the employee of the month is Robert Kane. Robert has been with MTM for nearly 2 years. He likes to make a positive impact on the community as part of what he considers a rewarding job. He's a native Nevada, born in Fallon, and is very active in our community, particularly, sounds like he's a target shooter, so he likes to spend time, which I'm sure a lot of people in Fallon do, out into the wilds of Nevada. The Keolis driver of the month is Rhonda Lebouthiere. Rhonda has worked as a bus operator for RIDE since June of 2019. Her accomplishments in January consist of a 97% on-time performance, 0 for preventable accidents, and no customer complaints. So thank you, Rhonda, for what you do for all of us. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Looking to the board to see if there's questions. Yes, Vice Chair Reese.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Thomas, thank you so much for the update, especially all of the incredible good work and the things that maybe are not as noticed. The Stuff a Bus is really cool. I thank Mayor Lawson for participating in that. I wanted to ask, though, about a particularly difficult subject, which was the attack of one of our drivers. And so, first of all, I was taken back. I woke up, as I am prone to do at times, and looked on social media, and one of the folks had tagged me in something about it. And so maybe just a little update. I worry for our driver who sounded just viciously attacked and beaten. I worry about how he's doing. I want to make sure that we're doing everything we can as an organization to support. Just the whole thing is rather scary and tragic, and really highlights the vulnerabilities of some of our employees. And it breaks my heart. So I just wanted a little bit of an update.
Glad to do that, and I'm going to have Don Swain from Keolis. And I know Don, because when I heard about it that Tuesday morning when I was at the legislature, Don had already met with and gone down to see the driver. So Don definitely can give us an update.
Yeah, Don Swain with Keolis, Madam Chair, members of the board. It really was, I've been in the industry for over 4 decades, and I've never seen anything like this. It was remarkably bad. And it's a video that you don't want to see. A very strange set of circumstances, but our operator's doing much better. I visited him in the emergency room. He was very happy to see me. I talked to the union about the situation, and the Secretary Treasurer of the union, Gary Watson, went down and visited as well. Went to the point where it's time for him to come out of the hospital. And as a 78-year-old gentleman, lives alone, had a very good friend who went through training with him 19 years ago, and he volunteered to stay with him for a while. He couldn't afford not to work, so Keolis gladly volunteered to pay him while he's doing that, so he can still make a living and help out with the gentleman that was beat up. And he's doing much better today. I don't want to go into the extent of his injuries. One of my contacts in the city lined me up with Veterans Guest House, and the two of them, the gentleman helping him, Armand Martinez, and the gentleman who was beat up, are going there to visit Monday and see if that's an appropriate setting for him, since he's also a vet. So, I mean, a lot of reason to respect the guy, working as, you know, a gentleman who's got some years behind him, in a job that's not easy and doing an impressive job of it. To have something like this happen is really beyond the pale.
Well, thank you so much for that update and for your general care and compassion for our driver. I suppose it caused me then to think about two things. One is the safety improvements that we're making to the buses in order that this type of incident might not happen. So that's one thing to sort of put a thought to. But the other is that as I was told, is that a former driver, no longer with the organization, but a former driver was actually a Good Samaritan who was the first person on scene to assist our driver. And so I just, please make sure that we're honoring that person as well.
Absolutely.
Because that also spoke to me.
Yeah, it's really a huge, beautiful community, and you know, the people are connected to transit. They look out for each other.
Thank you, Vice Chair Reese, and thank you for all the work that you're doing in that matter. And we want to make sure that our drivers are safe and well cared for. So anything that this board can do to support, just let us know.
Yes, RTC is already committed to safety upgrades on the buses, and we're well underway in that process.
Great. And our new terminal, we should have, I know that's a little bit ways out, but we'll have more boots on the ground with the DRP as a partner as well. I know that that's part of the plan. Mr. Thomas?
Yes, that's always driver, passenger safety. The safety of our transit system is always on our mind. And I would point out that very frustrating to us, but and you guys have heard this since the pandemic, the challenge of getting the buses finished is a supply chain issue.
Yeah.
We've ordered them many months ago, and the parts are supposedly showing up soon, but as soon as we get them in for those older buses, we will finish putting up the barricades and the safety barriers.
Thank you. And our public commenter, Dora Martinez, comes to us with issues that she sees that maybe the RTC could correct. And one of the issues that she emailed us about was our website being accessible. And I was just wondering if there's an update on that, or if we have.
Can I just go back to
Oh, of course, yes.
this situation? Will you come back up, please? Sorry. First of all, anyone doing that to a senior makes me want to
it's
just
horrible.
throw up. And if it was my mother or father, I would beat the crap out of them. So we should all be outraged. I appreciate your care and concern. I can't stress enough the comments that my colleagues made. But if there's anything that we can do at all, I know Councilman Reese and myself, we were going to go to the hospital, but I think, you know, we also want to respect people's privacy. So I do want to look at what are some of the safety protocols that we can put in place or that we have in place in an event such as that. Like, you know, I know in my business, we have a button that we can push at a moment's notice if something is going on. You know, maybe some of our drivers should be trained in certain safety aspects. We're living in some really strange times, and you know, people are in really desperate situations, and so we kind of want to make sure that we train all of our employees, whether it's, you know, active shooter training or anything that's going to keep us safe. We have to think differently, and that's, you know, not just on our buses, but in the workplace. So are there measures to that? I mean, it's always something like, you know, it's weird when we do some of the training at the city of Reno, and I'm like, oh, I can't believe that I'm actually having to, you know, get under a desk and run and these kinds of things. But we are living in a world where we have to be a little bit more proactive and start thinking about how we protect the people that work for us. And, you know, especially our essential workers that do the job every single day. And those are the toughest jobs, right? So maybe you could speak a little bit to Have you thought about a broader safety plan?
Go ahead, Jim.
Good morning, everybody. For the record, Jim Gee, Director of Public Transit. I can talk a little bit about first the capital improvements and then sort of the safety planning side that work in conjunction to protect our drivers and employees. On the capital planning side, as Mr. Swain mentioned, we are in the process of installing hard plastic barriers to protect drivers. These are already installed at our newest buses. Our last 3 orders of buses have these barriers installed from the factory, but our older vehicles do not yet. And as Mr. Thomas mentioned, it's a supply chain issue because these barriers are actually custom made for each individual bus because a bus is not a bus. And so each one is a little different in terms of measurement, in terms of series, and we have to customize those barriers to make sure the drivers are protected. It has been ordered, the contract is signed, and we are simply waiting for delivery. And our mechanics at Keolis have already said that they will do the installation as quickly as possible.
That's a plexiglass
Yes.
type of alteration, I guess, correct?
It is. It's a clear barrier that allows eye contact between the driver and the passenger, but does not allow physical contact. And so, we've used it. We use it now, and believe that's a really good solution that will be installed on every bus. Additionally, we're also in the process of drafting a scope of work for a new camera system because we have cameras on board all of our vehicles today, but those cameras vary quite a bit from model to model. And as simply the technology has improved over the years, we have not frankly gone back and fixed those older camera systems. So what we're doing is we're doing a camera system that will be installed on every vehicle. That camera system will include an AI component so that if we need to find a passenger that has been banned on our system, the camera system can find them. Or if we have a little child who's perhaps lost, which occasionally happens, we can find that child on the bus and through the live monitoring of the camera system.
Okay, do we have signage that says you're on camera, everyone knows, it's
We do.
very large? Sometimes that can be a deterrent as well.
We do have signage on board every one of our vehicles, and the passengers already know that the camera system is there, and we use it today to enforce banning of our passengers. The newer system would be more proactive and allow us to basically do a better job of policing that.
And if they had to call the police, do they call the police physically with their phone, or is there some sort of,
Each bus already has
Programmed.
installed a panic button.
okay,
And that panic button basically sends an alert to the dispatcher. If you're sitting at the dispatcher's computer screen, it takes the entire screen up. There's no missing it. And so when incidents do happen, that panic button is used. And so the dispatchers are known immediately that there's an issue.
and I just wonder if there's some mechanism where a rider actually has the opportunity to use some sort of button or something to say, we're in trouble. Medical incidents happen all the time,
We do advertise on the inside of our bus for a see something, say something hotline. So passengers, when they see something, because there are times you may not want to go to the driver, but you do see something. And so this is a third-party thing that's manned 24 hours a day that passengers can use to reach out and get information and help.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I appreciate it, and I appreciate your compassion for the situation. It's incredibly unfortunate. I don't know what the hell is wrong with people today.
Get it
It's
either.
unbelievable. So please tell him that we're thinking of him.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Any other comments, Mr. Thomas?
Just to finish this particular incident, that individual has been banned from life on our system. So as we get this
I should
new
hope so.
AI camera system, it'll let us know and the driver know if this person were to ever try to get onto our system again.
It's a good thing I wasn't on that. Rabid mayor will come and get
the
you.
law in your own hands, Madam
That's
Mayor.
right. I'm
Yep.
not waiting.
I just was hoping, and this could be done offline, but for an update on our website accessibility that Dora Martinez had emailed us about. I hadn't received an update. And I know the Washoe County has been doing a lot to ensure that we are meeting those accessibility requirements, and I want to make sure that RTC can do that as well. And if you need any support, we have staff that are actively doing that at Washoe County that I can connect your team with if that's necessary. Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments for Mr. Thomas? I'm not seeing any. We're going to move to item 7.2. This is a verbal update by Mr. Paul Nelson, RTC Government Affairs Officer on federal matters. Do you have all the answers for us? Do we have any money?
We have all the money we need.
Okay, good to hear.
Paul Nelson, Government Affairs Officer, for the record. Before I get started, I do want to invite all of you up on the board to go out for a photo op after the meeting in front of the bus. As for the federal report, as you know, we have been in the process of applying for the Protect Grant for the Sun Valley Community Gateway Project. That one has been paused for the time being, so we are hoping that it will come back online soon and that we can finish that application. It's for $40 million, so it's a big chunk of money and very important for this project. Part of President Trump's Unleashing American Energy executive order paused all disbursements of IRA and IIJA programs related to the Green New Deal. The problem with that is that the Green New Deal is not in statute, so it's kind of vague on what those are. Previously paused formula funds are now flowing, but some discretionary awards and obligations are still stuck on the highway side, particularly for projects that are funded for zero emissions transportation infrastructure. The administration has said that this is a pause, so we do expect those federal funds to start flowing again. As you probably know, the Senate confirmed Sean Duffy as Secretary of Transportation by a 77-22 vote. The no votes were by Democrats who were mainly protesting the Trump administration's memos to pause disbursements of the IRA and the IIJA programs. Those memos have been since rescinded. The House and Senate Budget Committees have released a fiscal year 25 budget resolution that unlocks a pathway for reconciliation legislation. The budget resolution includes tax exemptions, energy and immigration reforms, and a $4 trillion increase to the debt limit. The House package could also include cuts to Medicaid, SNAP, and the elimination of climate measures. Appropriations leaders are still working on the fiscal year 25 spending bill that's due on March 14th. The two sides are still negotiating on a top line spending figure to develop the spending levels of the 12 appropriations subcommittees. If they can't agree, they'll have to pass another CR. That could be a short-term CR, or it could go through the rest of the fiscal year. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nelson. And I think if you have a second, I think that we're all concerned about grants on the federal level and especially reimbursement grants. And I'm assuming that many of our grants that come down from the federal level are reimbursement grants. So I don't know if, we've done any analysis on this. There's so much we don't know, and there's unknown unknowns on this piece, but I just wanted to reflect my concern on that, and it sounds like you're monitoring it. It's just that we're all going to be in a world of hurt if we can't work with our state partners and also our federal partners to ensure that we're moving forward with all these really important projects that we just approved today.
Thank you, Chair. Christian Schoenlaw for the record. I will say RTC took proactive steps to ensure that we did draw down any available funds prior to the freeze.
Okay.
We did not have any difficulties obtaining those funds, and some of them did include no and low emissions funding from the last IIJA. So to date, we have not seen impacts. Long term, we are uncertain, but we are monitoring and aware of what funds could be at risk.
Okay, thank you for that. I appreciate that. And Mr. Thomas?
Thank you. And I wanted to share with the board, one of the things we were going to talk about at our retreat next month is we don't want to do too much what if, but I do think it's important to share with the board some potential scenarios based on what we're hearing could be the direction it goes. Just so we're all aware and we have a strategy in hand, pre-thought, much like Christian said, to think a little bit ahead and not be totally stuck with something happen we weren't planning for. So I just wanted to make the board aware that's one of the things we'll want to talk to you about next month.
Great. looking forward to that conversation. Any other board members on the federal update? Not seeing any. We'll now move into 7.3. This is a update from NDOT Director Tracy Larkin Thomason for NDOT. Welcome.
Right, thank you. We'll jump right in. It has been a very unusual weather, unusual winter coming up this year, but much more wetter and warmer than usual. And it's just kind of pointing out that this is kind of, it creates more difficulties, which I'm sure you probably see in your own agencies, is that when it's really wet during the day and then you hit freezing temperatures later on in the day and in the evening, you have a lot more icy ones. So here I'm just showing, we have 4 plows in tandem with the tow plow on the front coming along I-80. And again, we're just saying, I don't know if people are aware that these guys get up, I mean, they work all around the clock, but on days when it's particularly snowy or impacting traffic, they're up at 2 a.m., they're watching the roadways. We all meet at 4 a.m. in the morning. I do not turn on the camera, but we meet at 4. We discuss county by county, but road by road. How is McCarran? How is Reno? How is a trip? And particularly with the legislative session. And then at 4:15, we contact the governor's office to whether to recommend a late start or a snow day on there, and then monitor it during the day. As you said, the one last week, very fluke on Thursday, really all roads leading to Carson were a mess. And with the legislative session and in there, but it was, and yet 4 p.m. that afternoon, amazing. Anyway, so kudos to all the drivers, and that's not just my agency, but also your agencies too. A lot of respect for them out there. And as you can see, in motion. So yes, I'm just showing off the team.
Nice.
But,
Amazing how close people follow.
but it is, as they say, they're in tandem so that they start from the inside and then just keep moving the snow out so it ends up on the outside, outside the lanes. And I'll go into the next one. So there isn't much I'm going to be talking about that you haven't already talked about today. So here's just a recap of Transportation Day, where the RTC Washoe, of course, joined this bill up in the corner, RTC Southern Nevada, Campo, and Tahoe. And then during the day, we also, many of us did presentation, all the agencies on their programs to both the Assembly and then later the Senate. Then also, I want to point out, this was passed in the last legislative session. We asked for 5 years to and put it in. While it's not so much in your urban areas, but any 2-lane highway leading out inside will be required in 2028 to have your headlights on during the day. It is a safety feature. It is working particularly on many of the rural areas. It does help if you catch that little glint. This does not include 2-lane urban streets or highways with more than 1 lane in either direction. So we have started working kind of from the center out in some of the more rural areas. This was put forward by Pete Gocochea in the last, like I said, legislative session, and we asked for 5 years to implement, just for the length of time to get it out there. And then we do have a local infrastructure safety program. So we saw, because as we have mentioned, there was a 6% increase in annual traffic fatalities statewide. It was 390 in 2023 and 412 in 2024. And so we do use HSIP, Highway Safety Improvement Program, and to reduce fatal and serious injuries on all roads, and that's all different types of things. It's anything from pedestrian crossings on their passing lanes. There's a lot of safety mitigations across. But we are putting out a local infrastructure safety program, so we're asking local agencies, we will provide some of these fundings to local projects. It's due by March 16th, and details about the application process, the eligibility requirements, and the deadline are available through our traffic safety and on our website. And then, again, Dale stole my thunder, so with the McCarran Boulevard and Keystone Avenue traffic signal, it is coming up will start this month, and it'll be done by the end of summer. That concludes it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for the director? I'm not seeing any. Thank you. And I know you're also looking at federal funds and how that affects the locals, and so keep us updated on that as you learn more information. We appreciate your work and your engagement with RTC. Okay, our next item is item 8, our commissioner announcements and updates. Do we have any commissioner announcements or updates? I'm not seeing any.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
actually, because you give me one more shot at it,
Go
I'll
for
just
it.
invite everyone to the Western Lights Festival that's going on in downtown Reno tonight and tomorrow night. Last night was the first night. There's lots of transportation-related stuff down there because Pac-Man is driving around downtown. There's pedestrian pedicabs, the road closures, and bikes. So very RTC appropriately themed, but it's really incredible. It's sort of like Burning Man arrived in downtown Reno. So you've got lights and food vendors and art, music, all the things. And last night it was all ages appropriate. I mean, there was just everyone down there enjoying the good time from 5 to 95.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, City of Reno, for your leadership on that and getting arts downtown and getting people moving around with their families and exploring our incredible downtown and Riverwalk. Any other announcements? Not seeing any. Okay, we'll now move to our final public comment. And I see that Carlos Escenido, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your last name, is signed in. Come on up.
Carlos Elizondo, by the way, it's pronounced Elizondo. Yeah, the reason I am here today is because I feel they haven't been fair my complaint that I put in January 31st. It was the bus number 531, 9:42 a.m. the Harvard station, going inbound. I got on the bus, but there was people coming out that I didn't see, and the driver got pretty mad at me, about that I got on the bus. I mean, but and I talked first to Karen, Keolis Customer Service, and she didn't have to be disciplinary with me, She just told me you should be more respectful before you get in the bus, in a kind of in a rude way. And I asked her, did you see the driver doing this, the whole there's people coming out? And she didn't answer anything. And as a matter of fact, Jim Gee saw that video too, because I talked to him afterwards because I wasn't happy about Karen. And I asked him the same thing. Did you see the people doing this? He didn't say anything either. Regardless, what's fair, If the driver has done this, hold this, or something, but he didn't say anything, and he didn't do this, nothing. So, yeah, so you gotta do things in the fair way, I was not happy about that, And it's very uncomfortable when you get in the bus and I had to come out, and then you had to get off of the bus, especially when, you're an old person, I'm a senior, I'm an elder, I might not look like, but I am, And it's very, inconvenient, get in the bus and I had to get out. And some of the buses, they have the advertisement sign, You cannot see inside. They can see you out from inside to outside, but you cannot see inside. So I didn't see anybody getting out of the bus. So I got on the bus. So I'm just, here just what's right, what's fair, And Karen doesn't look very disciplined, She don't, up to me, there's no very, she don't have a very disciplined, and the way I interacted with her, Yeah, because she told me, in a rude way, you should be more respectful before you get on the bus. She just told me that straight up in a rude way. Okay, so that's it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. And we'll look into that incident. I'm sorry you had a hard time. Any other public comments, Madam Clerk?
No public comments.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for a wonderful meeting.